Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of GCC's Georgia Chiro Connection. I'm your host, Dr. Kathy, and today I'm really excited to speak with one of our GCC docs from Madison, Georgia, Dr. Vince Campbell. How you doing, Dr. Vince?
Doing very well, thanks. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for coming on today, taking your lunchtime to come and share with us a little bit.
Happy to.
Yeah, I know. You know what? You're one of those people that is always happy to share, and we appreciate that so much from you because I know recently you just shared for us at our most recent continuing ed event down in Augusta. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, it was, or my class anyway, was 4 hours on cranial adjusting, what I call the vitalistic approach to cranial adjusting, and how to implement that as a practicing chiropractor without having to go to 300 hours worth of class. And it's really the way I design it's a little bit more getting everybody in touch with the history and philosophy of chiropractic and why we do what we do, and then how you can use certain cranial contacts to do that or otherwise. But we had a good day, and there was an x-ray class. I did my thing. Then there was 3 good hours of philosophy and practical things. And then I was not there for the next day, but I heard it came off well as well.
I was very glad to just hear you talk about why we do what we do. And that's a big motivating factor for me. I think it's a big motivating factor for successful practices is staying in contact and staying in connection with the why. Why do we do what we do? Why do we get up in the morning? Why do we serve our patients? Why do we serve our communities? Why do you travel around and speak? That why is really what should drive you. And sometimes I think doctors can lose touch of that. And when we get reconnected to that, it really helps not only their practice grow, but mentally it helps them be a better person, feel better about what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's good to be in a group of like-minded people and get reminded of that, we'll say. And it's interesting, and it's a cliche almost, but it's true, is you get caught up in the admin and the papers and the insurance and the this stuff, and you forget actually why you're helping people. And, you know, it's people like they don't want to go to the office, or they feel like, I don't want to see any more people. And that's a bad sign, right? That something's not going right.
Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes that being lost in the world and getting the ick of everybody else's problems on you can happen if we're isolated, as most people were for the last few years. You know, it wasn't just the patients that were isolated. It was docs who are used to going to seminars and really staying in community with people, staying in fellowship, staying connected to people. If you didn't have that outlet and you're an extrovert, like I am an extreme extrovert, if I'm not around 500 people, I'm like looking for where's the next action, right? Like I want to be around a lot of people. To not have had that for the last few years has been so detrimental to everybody's mental health, but for the extroverts, for the chiropractors that really need to make sure that we're staying dipped in this philosophy, being around other people. I think that was so damaging to people that didn't have that community. So I want to talk to you a little bit about connecting with others and really building those communities.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. And I like that this is called the Chiro Connection. And that's what I talk about whenever I was doing my CA class, is getting out in the community, how you connect what chiropractors do with what people think we do. And that's what I've noticed is the biggest disconnect, is that we have people coming to the office looking for relief, right, of some symptom. But we believe, or we understand that, well, chiropractic is not really treatment of symptoms. It's bigger than that. But we try to give them the whole ball at one time. And so we get somebody coming looking for some symptomatic relief, but the chiropractor feels like they have to ask them to marry them and be under lifetime care. And there's such a disconnect there. And so then the doctors start taking it personally, or they blame the patient, like what's wrong with people. And so I found there's a few different ways to connect the dots with patients on that first visit that makes it easier on the doctor, because somehow we got bewitched into thinking if they don't come forever, something's wrong. Mm-hmm. Or we run them off the first day, right? How to kind of bridge that gap. So I can share some of those if you'd like to hear them.
I would love to, because, you know, I talk to a lot of doctors, and especially students, interns, they're getting ready to graduate, or they're just brand new in practice. And they're having a hard time. How do you get somebody to make the big jump from, I met you at a health event, a screening, a talk, whatever it was, And I thought I was just talking to you about my one little headache that I have every day, which is just a little headache because it's my normal headache, right? And now here you are telling me that I've got a sublimation, right? A submarine in my cervicular spine that's been there since I fell off a balance beam at 13 years old. And I have to do something that's going to take a lot of time to correct it. Can't you just make my headache go away?
Right.
So that gap really needs to be filled in with education. But tell us how you're teaching people how to do that, because anytime we can learn, it's always a plus.
Yeah. So the trick is, or at least my version is, and I realized this pretty early on in practice because I was just realizing, man, that jump is too big. So it finally hit me. I forget exactly how, but I was like, okay, meet them where they are and then show them the next step that is available.
Yes.
So, and that's hard because we want to explain chiropractic and we want to bring them to where we are. But if we're going to do love, give, and serve, we have to meet them where they are. Mm-hmm. So, in that first visit, a lot of times it has turned into, and I've heard people say this, I don't know if they say it anymore, but it's kind of like, don't tell me what your problem is. I don't want to hear about it. Right? Just lie down and let me adjust you. Okay. Well, that's a little too far away, right? Somebody wants to talk. So the idea is like you want to connect everything to their chief complaint. And the reason I say that is like, because I had asthma and allergies through high school. And a friend of mine was like, man, you should go to the chiropractor for that. And I said, well, how is that going to help? He said, well, I don't know, but they lay you down on your side and pow, and it just rips everything all the way up. Then they turn you on the other side. Pow, man, it's awesome. It's like, okay, it sounds awesome, but I don't get it, right?
Right.
So then when I was at Georgia Tech, guy like, hey, man, you should go see a chiropractor about your allergies. And I was like, well, how is that going to, I don't get it. How is that going to help? He said, I don't know, man. But I was in a car accident, and they just take your head and kapow, and it's awesome. Boom, it's awesome. I was like, well, that sounds awesome, but I don't get it, right? So finally, a friend of ours, I graduated Tech. See, here I was, graduated Georgia Tech, got a medical discharge from the Air Force ROTC right at graduation because I couldn't pass the breathing test. I didn't know what to do, but a friend of ours had been to a chiropractor for his breathing issues that he had from when he was little. He'd been to chiropractor. It flared up again. He went to see a guy near us. And so my mom and I both said, we don't know how this is going to help, but if it helped Joe, I'll go see, right? We just went. So, and I think this is the first thing he said. I don't know if it is. This is the first thing I remember is he just pointed to the chart and he said, these nerves go to the lungs. And it was just like, literal epiphany at that moment. I just remember thinking, dang. And I saw this little vision of myself, and I was like, focus right here at the neck and the head. And I thought, man, this is so important. How this is your brain and it is your life. I'm going to have my spine checked for the rest of my life. And notice he hadn't said anything else, right? He just said these nerves.
He didn't even educate you. Didn't give you
anything.
The whole nervous system. He didn't tell you about the dura mater and
Yep. And then I was like, and I think I want to be a chiropractor. Yeah, that was in the just same like that. But I just had graduated Georgia Tech. So anyway, long story short, got to Life College. And when I got out of school, guess what I thought all you had to do to tell people was, this nerve goes to the lungs. Bang, they get it, they come forever. See, like that's all the education or anything you need to tell people. Okay, rude awakening, right? So I finally realized that you have to meet them where they are and say it in their own words. So whatever their chief complaint is, they say, my leg hurts or whatever they describe. See, then there's three things that I say that kind of gets you focused on what I call bringing them into the now, right? Having this moment. It sounds like, looks like, feels like. So, oh, your leg hurts and it's this and how long, blah, blah, blah. They tell you whatever it may be. You say, it sounds like you do have some nerve pressure on your spine down there. Let's see what we see. Then we do an exam, whichever exam you like to do, and you say, oh, it looks like you do have some pressure, misalignment, irritation, and I see what you're talking about. And then you point to the chart, right? These nerves go to the ba. Then when you're working on them, you palpate, and they go, oh God, and you go, yeah, I feel that too. You feel that? I feel it. So we're together. I heard you, I see it, and I feel it, and you feel it. Now we're working together, because a lot of times people don't get listened to.
Right.
Heard them. So that's how we bring it into the moment. And so by using their own words, you notice that I did not say subluxation, right? Because like you said, one of my best, I'll say smartest patients got off the table one time after being adjusted, and she said, oh, am I subluxated now? See, and at that moment I realized, okay,
yeah,
let's just use their words. Let's talk in their language so that they connect to what we're saying.
There's something interesting that you just did. You said, I see it. It looks like, and I feel it. So you just spoke to someone who's an auditory, you spoke to someone who's a visual, you spoke to someone who's a kinesthetic, right? You covered the bases to make sure that they realize you're connected with them.
Yep. Right. Yeah. You're communicating on all of those levels, right?
Right.
And you're touching it so they feel it. All that you left out was smelling and tasting, so we don't need to go there.
Right. We don't want to do that. We get enough to smell in our offices.
Yeah. So the idea is that way, when you're connecting with them, you're tying everything to their chief complaint. Mm-hmm. Then as they come in, you have more chances to explain a little bit about this non-therapeutic approach, which would be, oh, I know you said your left hip is bothering you, but I found it over here on the right hip. Interesting. See, then you're explaining adaptation, compensation, and they start to get it. Then they start to say, oh, my shoulder's killing me, but you said it might be coming from my hip. See, they start talking back to you in your own words, right? Because I have a guy who comes in, he's on the table, like, hey, how's it going? He goes, I just need to get my power turned back on. Okay. See, but if you start where they are using their words to describe it, then it becomes a relationship. Then they start using your words to come back, and that way you're helping them in a more concrete way.
And that's, if you think about it, any good communication works that way, and any good relationship works that way. If you meet somebody and you just immediately try to ramp them up to your level, mm-hmm. they're either going to get frustrated or lost or think, who do you think you are? Or they're just going to say, that's not for me. But if you meet somebody where they are, it means not that we're better or worse. And I don't mean it in that regard, right. But if you're just completely on a different level of conversation, if you bring it down to a conversation that they can understand and participate in, they'll right. stay engaged. But the minute you start talking in words that they don't understand, they're disconnected. They're looking for an out.
Yeah, that's a good point. What we call matching tone, right? If they're energized, you get up with them. If they're a little bit low key, you dial it down so that they know that you're hearing them. It sounds like their words, right? It feels familiar, and they feel part of the family, and they know that you're looking out for them. You're connected to them. So that's the biggest insight I had early, and that most people a lot of time get frustrated over, right? Is how come I can't get this patient to come to me? I'm like, oh, why don't you go to them? See how that works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cast your net over there a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. You have done so much for the profession. I know you've been involved for so many years. You've given back to the GCC. You've taught for GCC for so long. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that in 2 weeks, we have our golf tournament coming up. And I know that's a big one. We've got a lot of people registered for that already. And I know it's coming up on September 15th. We've got an 8:00 check-in, 9:30 start. We've got breakfast for you. We have lunch for you. We have the drink carts are going to be going around. We've got the games, and we've got raffles, and I mean, just so much from all of these sponsors. We're so grateful for all of our sponsors for really chipping in and making this an amazing event. Dr. Vince, as you may know, that we raise a lot of money during this fundraiser every year. We gave a humongous check to the Foundation for Vertebral Subluxation Research last year, as well as to the Davis Foundation. We're doing that same thing. There's that big, beautiful $10,000 check. we're doing another huge donation from the proceeds from this golf tournament again this year to the Foundation for Vertebral Subluxation Research, so that we can really help fund the research that shows chiropractic's relationship to immune function. So that's huge, as well as to the Davis Foundation. And as well as to a public awareness campaign. So big things coming from this golf tournament. What I want to do is let everybody that's watching know we already have about 100 players. There's only 144 in a full field. Look at me. I'm like learning all these golf terms. I'm becoming a sports mom. So if you want to get registered, don't wait. The golf tournament is 2 weeks from tomorrow. So we definitely need you to get involved. If you're planning on coming, please let Kat know. Go to our website, chirocup.com, and get yourself registered. Register for a team of 4. Register for a team of 8. I don't know how golf works. I know there's 4 people. It's a foursome. So register yourself. Get a bunch of people going. I'll be there helping to do the little putting green part because that's fun for me. But we definitely have room for some more players. We could use some more volunteers. We have so many prizes. Oh, the list of prizes that we have is just amazing. This is a top-notch golf tournament at Bridge Mill, which is a top-notch golf club. I guess, is that the right word?
Yeah.
So we hope that we see you there. Dr. Vince, I know you're probably about an hour or so away. Can we get you to maybe come up and join us that day?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be out of town in 2 weeks. But otherwise, I'd be there.
All right, fantastic. Well, we appreciate all that you do for GCC. And I also want to remind you that we have our United Soccer game coming up on September 10th. It's a big one. It's always a great time. So if you're going to be available and want to join on that, just send a message to Kat at georgiachiropractic.org or just drop a message down below. We'll get you all that information. So I want to thank you so much for coming on, Dr. Vince.
All right. Well, glad to be here.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing some valuable information with us.
Happy to help.
Oh, fantastic. And for those of you watching, whether you're watching it live or you're watching the replay, we thank you for joining us for the GCC's Georgia Chiro Connection. We look forward to seeing you next week, every Wednesday, right around 1:30-ish. The ish is always a big part. And we'll see you then. Have a great week, everyone. Be safe. Happy Labor Day. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.